My name is Nora Lynn Patterson, and I am 87 years old. I've lived long enough to know that the heart remembers differently than the mind. Memories fade, but certain loves don't. In the summer of 1972, I met a man who lived at the edge of the world. I was 26, exhausted from a failed engagement and a job that left my spirit thin. My doctor suggested a change of scenery, so I rented a tiny cabin on the Maine coastline for 2 weeks, hoping the ocean could scrub the ache from my bones. The first morning, I woke to the sound of waves pounding against cliffs. Fog wrapped itself around everything, soft, cold, familiar in a strange way. I decided to walk. After nearly an hour along the rocky shore, I saw it. A tall, white lighthouse rising through the mist like a ghost. At its base stood a man. He was repairing a railing, sleeves rolled to his elbows, hair tousled by wind. He looked up when he heard my steps. I froze. He froze. For a moment, even the waves seemed to pause. "Morning," he said, voice deep and steady. "Morning," I echoed. "You're far from town," he noted. "I needed air," I said. He nodded, as if understanding something unspoken. "My name's Henry," he said. "Henry Clark. Lighthouse keeper." "Nora," I replied. His eyes softened. "That name suits this coast." I visited again the next day, and the next. At first, I told myself I only enjoyed the walk, the wind, the cliffs, the sound of gulls, but it wasn't true. I wanted to see him. Henry lived alone in a small house beside the lighthouse. He brewed terrible coffee, but had the gentlest hands I'd ever seen. Hands that repaired ropes, polished lantern glass, fed stray cats. Hands that seemed to hold the entire coastline steady. He was quiet, not shy, simply a man who didn't waste words. But when he did speak, you felt the weight and warmth of every syllable. One afternoon, as we watched the waves slam against the rocks, he asked, "What did you come here to forget?" I hesitated. Then the truth fell from my lips. "My fiancé left me for a woman he met at work." Henry nodded thoughtfully. "And what does the ocean say about that?" he asked. "It says, 'I'll survive,'" I whispered. He smiled. "Smart ocean." One evening, fog rolled in so thick the lighthouse beam looked like a blade cutting through milk. I climbed the spiral staircase with Henry to watch him light the lens. When the flame roared to life, bathing his face in warm gold, he looked at me carefully. "Most things in life," he said, "don't stay lit unless someone tends them." Was he talking about the lamp or about me? My heart knew the answer. For days we circled each other, close but never touching, talking but never confessing, wanting but never daring. Until one night, a storm hit, violent and wild. Wind howled, thunder cracked. My cabin felt like it might blow apart. Terrified, I ran to the lighthouse. Henry threw open the door before I even knocked. "You came here in this storm?" he said, pulling me inside. "You were the only place I wanted to be," I whispered. Something broke open between us. He wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and poured warm tea into my cold hands. We sat by the window, watching lightning split the sky. Then, without a word, he reached for me. His fingers brushed mine, tentative, asking. I didn't pull away. He leaned closer, his forehead touching mine, breath soft against my lips. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. I didn't. Our kiss was slow, tender, full of all the emotion we'd been holding back. That night, wrapped in blankets, listening to the storm rage outside, I felt something inside me settle, as if the ocean had finally stopped crashing. The next morning was bright and impossibly calm. We cooked breakfast together in complete silence, not out awkwardness, but out of the sacredness of what we now shared. Over coffee, he finally spoke. "I need you to know something," he said. My heart sank. "I'm not a man who travels," he continued. "My life is here, the coast, the boats, the tower. This lighthouse doesn't just guide ships, it anchors me." I swallowed hard. "And you," he said softly, "you aren't meant for a life that never moves." A lump formed in my throat. "You don't know that." "I do," he whispered. "You came here to heal. You won't stay in a place built on solitude." My eyes stung. "What if I want to?" I asked. He reached across the table, taking my hand. "Nora, if you stayed, you'd shrink to fit my world. I won't let that happen." Tears slipped down my cheeks. "Why give me something beautiful if I can't keep it?" I whispered. He brushed away my tear with his thumb. "Because you deserved to feel loved without fear." We spent my last days walking along the cliffs, not talking about the goodbye awaiting us, just holding on to every moment. On my final morning, he walked me to the edge of the property. Fog curled around us like breath. He pressed something small in my hand, a tiny brass compass. "So you never lose your way," he said. I threw my arms around him, tears wetting his collar. "I'll come back," I whispered. He kissed my forehead. "You'll think of me," he corrected gently, "and that's enough." I did think of him. When I married, when I had children, when I lost people I loved, when life grew heavy or joyful or quiet. Every lighthouse, every compass, every storm brought him back to me. I never returned to Maine, but I never stopped carrying him. If I could speak to that young woman in 1972, walking away from the man who lit more than the coastline, I would tell her, some loves aren't meant to be lived, only remembered, and that is its own kind of forever. That is my story, the story of the lighthouse keeper who guided my heart even after we drifted apart.